The winner of the International Woolmark Prize has been announced in Milan, with Indian fashion designer Rahul Mishra beating 4 other finalists, including Australia's Christopher Esber. The competition has been around since the 1950s, when Yves Saint Laurent and Karl Lagerfeld took part.
Its current incarnation is supported by Australian Wool Innovation, which fosters research and development in the local wool industry. To tell us more, we're joined by fashion journalist Paddy Huntington. So, Paddy Huntington, how successful are these types of awards in boosting the wool industry?
Well, it's true, it did start off in the 1950s, but there was a very long hiatus. And in fact, this particular competition, or this incarnation, was only launched last year, and look, judging by their own Media Monitor's analysis, I think it recouped $10 million in publicity. So it's really part of a sort of new marketing push for Australian wool. And after 20 years in the wilderness, I mean, it was a shocking 20 years for the Australian wool industry, with the the reserve price cream crashing in 1991 and prices going down by 45%. A lot of people got out of the industry. There was a drought. There was the animal rights thing. There's been stability for the past sort of 3 or 4 years, and the wool growers have actually voted to give more of their wool levy to marketing. And look, even analysts concede that, look, it may be coincidental, or it may not, that wool prices have actually been their best, and they have been in a very long time. I mean, they're fluctuating at the moment, and the Australian dollar is making some problems. But yeah, so it's very good news for Australian wool.
And Rahul Mishra, tell us a little bit about that designer and what you think really stuck out for judges.
34-year-old Indian designer. These aren't sort of brand new designers out of college. I'm not quite sure what the criteria is, but the people who've been selected as finalists seem to have been in business for about a decade.
Right.
And interesting, his collection was, they have to do a sample collection of 6 pieces, and there was a fabric made from 85% merino wool that was used these craftsmen from a place called Calcutta, I think it was, and it was very based on a lotus design, very intricate embroideries in the wool. So that would have, I think, just using wool is, there's plenty of ways you can use it in knitwear. You can use a sort of shaggy vest, as Australia's finalist Christopher Esber did, but he used it in a very interesting, intricate sort of craft-like way, and I think that's probably what captured the attention of the judges.
And what sorts of innovations are we seeing in the wool industry?
Oh, well, I mean, Australian Wool Innovation, which, as you say, is the R&D and marketing arm, are teaming up with the designers to launch sort of absolutely sort of lightweight, ultra lightweight fabric, so that you're sort of seeing wool, superfine wool particularly, which is a very small percentage, don't forget, it's 20% of the overall wool clip, being used in very lightweight garments for summer and sportswear. It's being used sort of in high-tech sports gear. So, as money is invested, and more money that's been invested in a very long time into innovation, I mean, this is sort of an amazing sort of industry which, it was the backbone of the Australian economy for 150 years. It's still an important industry. $2.5 billion last year was the wool clip.
Wow.
It's not as big as...
Xenia's a big fan. I think they spent $7 million last year.
On a big party. Yeah, they did. They do this annual Superfine Wool Awards. And as I say, the Superfine people are really doing I'm not sure if you've ever seen a sheep being shorn, but to watch a superfine merino sheep being shorn, it's like watching a knife go through butter. And it looks like cotton. It's so fine. I think the record is 10.5 microns, which is the diameter of silk. And a bale of that kind of can go for sort of $200,000. This is a real luxury product. And Xenia did a big party to fete the 50th anniversary of its Wool Awards. And funnily enough, almost a year to the day later, L'Uomo Vogue, which is the men's equivalent of Italian Vogue, one of the world's biggest menswear publications, is dedicating its entire March issue to Australia. And is coming down to Sydney late next month to launch it.
And what about the prize itself? How big a leg up is the cash? I think it's $100,000, but more importantly, perhaps, there's a distribution side of things too.
Yeah, of course. And they win $100,000, which wouldn't go astray to any young designer. No. And just to be a finalist, they win $50,000. So but that obviously goes towards the production of this and this sample collection. And then, of course, they get the trip to, in this case, Milan. Last year it was London. But I personally had never heard of Rahul Mishra, so everyone now has heard of Rahul Mishra, $100,000, and also that capsule collection of 6 garments then gets produced and distributed through this retail network, which includes Bergdorf Goodman in the US, Harvey Nichols in the UK, and David Jones in Australia. So it really is a massive leg up, and so far it's the most valuable sort of designer prize in Australia. And I mean, you really do need competitions like this, which exist in Europe and the US, to sort of, to fund young businesses.
Patty Huntington, just before we go, some very sad news for the Australian fashion industry with the death of Charlotte Dawson.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had this great story about the wool industry on Friday, and then Saturday everyone sort of looked online, and I think, judging by some of the comments that are being made, a number of her friends' worst fears unfortunately realised. And look, I think I speak on behalf of the entire industry when I say that everyone is very sad and, a very, very tragic event.
Yes,
it's terrible. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much.